food, simply because it's near me. Funny how when it's near me, I'm in the mood for food.
Welcome to this Christmas episode of Mood Food. Hi, I'm Vadis, and today I have some wonderful recipes for your Christmas holiday that it's just going to make you go, mwah, that was wonderful. All your guests will want to come to your house every year for Christmas. I also have a drink at the end of the show, so stay tuned because it's going to put you in the mood for some fun. All right, so today we're going to start out with a Christmas ham. Now, typically, a lot of people like to buy the spiral ham. I personally think that those spiral hams are cut a little too thin for me. I like mine kind of thick like a steak. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make your own spiral ham at home. And we're going to start out with our sauce. And what I have here, I'm going to turn my stove on to about medium. And I'm starting out with a cup of sugar-free maple syrup. Now, I like to use sugar-free ingredients because personally I don't want all those carbs on my thighs. And also my husband's a diabetic, so I've had to learn to cook for him. So I put my my sugar-free syrup in here, and then I'm going to put 2 ounces of orange liqueur. Now I'm going to stir that around, and I'm going to just let this simmer till it thickens just a little bit. Mix it all together. Oh my goodness, where's the smell-o-vision when you need it? Woo, that smells good. Now I'm going to add a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon. And for ham, I've always liked to mix the flavors of cloves and orange together. It's just something about the smell of that when it's baking, and the taste of it just makes you want more. So, put my cinnamon in there. Now I'm going to put a ¼ teaspoon of cloves. I'm going a little heavier on the cloves than I normally would anything else, but it just goes so dang good with that orange and ham. Okay, so I'm going to turn this down on low and just keep stirring for a few minutes. We're going to let that simmer. Oh my goodness! I can't wait for Christmas dinner. This smells so good. So we're going to let this cook just for a few minutes until it starts reducing and getting just a little bit thick. Okay. And while that's simmering, we're going to move over here to our ham. Now what I've done with the ham is I have pre-cut it. If you want to look real close right in there, you can see how I've cut it into like steak thickness right there, so that once I put this ham in my pan, I'm going to go ahead and put my mixture of syrup on it, and it is going to be so good. Now I'm ready to turn off the heat on my pot of syrup over here, and it looks and smells so wonderful. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this into one of my big measuring cups so that it'll pour easier over the ham. Okay, just like that. Now I'm only going to pour part of this over the ham. The other part I'm going to leave, because once the ham is cooked and we take those slices off of the bone, we're going to lay it on a platter and then pour some more of this sauce over it. Just makes it really scrumptious. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour this into my layers. Just a little bit in each layer, just so all of those flavors absorb into that ham while it's cooking. Just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to pour just a little bit over the top of the ham and on the outside layer, and just kind of rub it on there a little bit. Get those flavors rubbed in there really well. Oh, that looks good. Okay. And once that's done, and we're going to pop it in the oven on about 350 for about 45 minutes. These hams are usually pretty much cooked, but you just want to let those flavors cook in there really good. So I'm just going to pop it in there for about 45 minutes and then take it out.
Oh, that's cooked perfectly. Look at that.
Okay, so now I'm just going to cut my slices and lay them on my platter. Now once I have all of my ham laid out on the platter, I still have some of my ham glaze with the orange liqueur in it. And that's why we saved it back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pour it on and just let a little more of those flavors absorb into that ham and kind of brush it on like that right there. Oh my goodness, I wish you could smell this. It's so amazing. Wow. Your guests are going to be drooling. Perfect. And now we're finished with them. Our next dish for our holiday meal is green bean casserole. Now I know a lot of people are like, oh, green bean casserole, everybody does it. And you know, I'm a person, I'm allergic to onions, so I don't like the traditional kind because I'm allergic to the onions, and I don't particularly favor the flavor of onions with green beans. So I have developed my own green bean casserole, and I hope that you'll like what I have to share. And what I have here is 2 tablespoons of butter. And we're going to start with that. Put that in our pot. Turn it on about a medium heat. Let that butter melt real good in there. Okay. Now as that butter's melting, good. We're going to add a few really good ingredients. This is Alfredo sauce. I could just drink this stuff. I love Alfredo sauce. But what I have is a cup of Alfredo that I'm going to put in my pot here. Okay. And stirring in with the butter. And you know what? I just love all flavors of cheese. I'm crazy about cheese. I'm a cheeseaholic. Probably just a big old rat. But I love cheese. And so I like a lot of Parmesan. Just the flavors of it. It's just so nutty and delicious. And what I have here is a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. And I'm just going to put that in and fold it in with the Alfredo. And we're just going to mix this in and just let it cook until all the cheese is melted and gooey. And this is just going to make it so scrumptious. I like to get in the kitchen and experiment. It's just so fun to cook. You know, cooking's an art. And I consider myself a creative person. And ever since I was a little girl, I just loved anything artsy and creative. Never dreamed I'd be a cook, though. But I love it. Okay, so while that's cooking down, I have, for the working class mom or the working class girl who just doesn't have time to do everything fresh, what I have here are some canned green beans. And I'm telling you, you can take your grocery shelf foods and you can just turn them into just things that are so scrumptious. And I'm telling you, you could feed this to your family, throw some flour on your face and walk through the door and they'd think you worked so hard and hours on this, but this is just so quick and easy. And it's just fun. Just have fun with it and experiment with the flavors. If there's something else that you think you might want to put in your green bean casserole to spruce it up a little differently, just don't be afraid to try it. Cooking should be fun. It shouldn't be work. It should be art. Okay, so I've scooped about 2 cans of green beans, and I like the French style just because I think they're more flavorful and they're prettier. And I'm looking over here. Oh, that looks good. This is all melted. My Alfredo sauce and Parmesan cheese is doing really well here. Okay. And once that's completed, I'm just going to take my Alfredo and Parmesan mix here and I'm going to pour it over my green beans, just like that. Okay. And then I'm just going to fold it in. So just scoop up your green beans and fold them over the top and keep going until it's folded in there really well. Okay. Okay, and then once that's done, you're going to have your oven on about 325. And just pop that in the oven. And then when this comes out, I have a really, really scrumptious treat to put on the top of this that's just going to amaze you. It's crunchy and it's good, and you're just going to want to keep coming back for more. You better loosen your belt because you're going to fatten up on this meal. Now this is my sweet little surprise for the topping on your green bean casserole. What I have here is about 1.5 cups of finely shredded Parmesan cheese. So what I'm going to do is, I like to use parchment paper. Even if it's a non-stick pan, it's just easier to get the food off and easier to clean the pan. So I'm going to spread this out on my parchment paper, real thin, just as thin as I can. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to crisp this cheese. And, you know, sometimes when I just want a low-carb, high-protein, crunchy snack, and, you know, I just don't want nuts or something, this is kind of nutty, I'll just take this and I'll put it in the oven and crisp it up and just make me some little Parmesan chips out of it. And so it's just a really good snack that's real healthy and tastes really good. Okay, so that's all spread out. And now I'm just going to pop this in the oven just long enough to let it get real golden brown and crispy. And when this comes out of the oven, then we're just going to crunch it up and just spread it on top of that green bean casserole. And it is going to be scrumptious. Trust me on that one. Now we're ready to complete our green bean casserole. So I have my crisp Parmesan cheese. And what I like to do is just pull a little bit of it off just like that. And I just kind of break it up and crumble it on the top. And this gives it that little bit of crunch and adds some texture to our dish. And you know, really, if you can keep from breaking it, you could just maybe break off enough to just kind of lay it on top in one piece. But then it's harder to spoon out and it breaks up anyway. So I think just crumble it anyway. Oh, that looks great. My next dish is almost a dessert dish. This is so amazing. What I have here is I have about 3 cups of pre-cooked sweet potatoes. And so for the busy housewife who can't boil them herself, you can find these on the shelf in the grocery. And I'm just going to put them in my casserole dish because what we're going to do is we are going to make like a sweet potato casserole. So I'm going to put those in my casserole dish, just like that. Now over here on the burner, I'm going to put together a sauce that I mixed with this. And here I have about 3/4 cup of the sugar-free syrup. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to start with that. And then I'm going to toss in about 1/2 cup of butter because this makes it so scrumptious. When you start mixing those flavors together, it is so good. So I'm starting with all of my wet stuff. So I'm going to put my butter and my syrup in there, and I'm just going to let it mix for just a couple of minutes. I'll turn my flame up on medium because I want my syrup to thicken just a little bit. I want that butter to get melted and mixed in there really well. Okay. Now I'm going to mix in 2 tablespoons of cinnamon, just like that. And you don't need sugar because your sugar-free syrup is already sweet enough. Now I can hear that boiling and it smells so good. You just keep mixing a little bit just until that cinnamon is mixed in there really good. All the dry ingredients are mixing in good with the wet ingredients. Oh my goodness, look at that. Wow, it smells so good. I think this is going to rate us a good food rating. Okay, now I'm going to turn off my flame. And now I'm going to fold in 1/2 cup of pecans. Or if you're from South Carolina like me, 1/2 cup of pecans. So we're going to just put those in there and fold them in really quick. You don't want to leave them long because you don't want them to get soggy. And then I'm just going to pour this over those sweet potatoes, just like that. Now, if the sweet potatoes are already pre-cooked, you're only going to pop this in the oven long enough to just get it hot and let all of those flavors mix together. Okay. So then I'm just going to fold it just a little bit to make sure it mixes, because you don't want your potatoes to look like smashed potatoes. Okay. So that's folded in there. Oh my goodness. Look at those pecans. Look how good that is. Oh, and the smell is awesome. I can't wait to smell this in the oven. Now it's almost ready to go in the oven. I have one more ingredient. Mini marshmallows. Who doesn't like mini marshmallows? Come on. This is going to be so scrumptious. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put, I have a couple of cups here, and I'm just going to put them all on top of this casserole just until it's all covered. Okay. So I don't see any more potatoes. Just like that. And if you want to put a little more, that's fine. Now, the reason I put them on now instead of later is because when I pop this in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes on 325, these things will start puffing up, and it takes about that long for them to really puff up and start getting a golden brown. Once they get golden brown, you can take them on out of the oven. Okay? Now, once your sweet potato casserole dish is cooled to the touch, then you can add the Scrumptious to it. This casserole is about to become naughty. Still on Santa's naughty list, but nice. What I do is I have some melted caramel here, and of course I find the sugar-free kind in my grocery shelf. And I'm just going to drizzle it just over the top of this, just like that with a fork. Just drizzle it back and forth. You want to make sure your marshmallows are cool and that they've hardened. That way they don't get too soggy while you're doing this. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. Oh, we should have taste-o-vision too. And that completes our casserole. I have created the perfect holiday drink, not just for Christmas, but any holiday. This will get your taste buds flowing. Oh my goodness. What I have here is 2 cups of milk. And this is my raspberry cocoa drink. 2 cups of milk, and then I have here about a ½ cup of cocoa. I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to keep my flame on low, because when you're dealing with dairy, you don't want it to scorch. So we're going to put that in there and let that start simmering. Mix in all that cocoa. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. And then I have about a teaspoon of cinnamon I'm going to toss in there. And some people are probably thinking, cinnamon and cocoa? Oh, wait till you see what else I have to put in there. It's a big surprise. It's going to be so good. Okay. We're going to let that simmer for just a couple minutes. Oh my goodness, it's smelling so wonderful. Now that all of my chocolate is mixed in with the milk, I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 teaspoons of sugar. If you like it a little sweeter, fine. If not, fine. Just do it to taste. So I'm going to sprinkle that in there and mix it in. Okay. Now once that's all mixed in, we're going to go ahead and let it cool for just a minute before we pour it in our glass. Now that I've poured my hot chocolate mix into my mixing cup, I'm going to first of all take my little shot glass here, and you're wondering what is in that. Oh my goodness. This is raspberry liqueur, and I'm telling you, raspberries and chocolate go so wonderfully together. So what I'm going to do is put 1 shot, which is about 1 ounce, in my cup, and then I'm going to pour my hot chocolate mix right on top of that and let it mix itself. Look at that. See the beautiful color there? Oh my goodness, that looks so amazing. I have to taste it. Oh, totally rates. Good. Now, we're not done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little candy cane in here just to give it a little Christmas flair. And now I have some whipped cream. It's really going to be naughty. You might want to leave one of these for Santa. And what I'm going to do is just going to spray a little bit of this on the top, just like that. Look at there. Woo! And now what I have is another candy cane, and I've crunched it up a little bit, and what I do is just put it in a Ziploc bag and just kind of pound it a little bit. And we're just going to put a little bit of this on the top just to give it some pretty color. Look at that, how pretty that is. It's so festive. Now that right there is a drink that you could serve at any holiday party and everyone's going to be amazed. And you know what I'm going to do so it doesn't get cold? I'm going to set it on my toasty coaster. You can actually go online on our website and you can find out how you can order one. Last but definitely not least is our bread. What I have here are some beautiful croissants, and I'm going to make a rosemary butter to butter these babies with. They are going to be so succulent. You're going to want to start with the bread first. Oh, and you're going to want it for seconds and thirds. So what I have is 2 sticks of butter already softened. And then I have a 1/4 cup of whipped cream cheese softened. Okay, so I'm going to put all my wet stuff in first, just like that. And now I'm just going to take my little whisk and just whip this stuff together. And you just mix it all together until it's blended really, really well. See? Just like that. Okay, so we've got all of this mixed. Now once that's done, we're going to put a teaspoon of rosemary. And I like to grow my own rosemary and crush it up. It just smells and tastes so good. Put that rosemary in there. And then about 1/8 of a teaspoon of garlic, more or less. You know, with all the spice ingredients that I give you, just do it to your taste. Some people don't like more, some people do. I like more. I'm a garlic-holic. I love garlic. And rosemary, put them together. Oh my goodness. And see how well that's mixing up? Oh my goodness, that looks so good. And it smells even better. Turn your smell-o-vision on. Oh, heavenly. Okay, now you're not going to want to use all of your butter for your croissants. You're just going to brush a little bit of it on because you want to save some to put inside the croissant when you're eating. Now once all that is mixed up, I'm just going to take a little bit of this and I'm just going to put it in a little glass bowl here and pop it in the microwave to soften it a little more so I can brush it on my croissants. Now I just put my butter mixture, my rosemary and butter, in the microwave for about 10 seconds. And you can see it's got that little bit of a liquid texture. So now it's ready to just put our croissants on the baking pan and then just brush on some of this delicious rosemary butter. Oh my goodness, it just already smells good. It smells even better while it's baking. Ooh, mercy. And you just brush it on just like that. I'm telling you, the cream cheese mixed with that butter, the flavors are so good. It's just such a great combination. And once we get all these brushed, we're just going to pop them in the oven just long enough to warm it, just to warm the bread. So I usually just pop it in there for like 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, just like that. Okay. And we're going to pop them in the oven, still on 325. Now what I'm going to do is take the remaining butter and I'm going to put it in this beautiful little holiday dish, just like that, so that we can serve this up on the table for our guests to use it for the inside of their croissants. Oh, lovely, lovely. And now our rosemary butter is complete and ready to serve up.